Hello and welcome to a video about lanterns. In this video we're basically going to be comparing Dietz lanterns with Feuerhand lanterns and looking at some of the different construction details in these lanterns so you can form a better opinion of their build quality and how they perform. First we're going to look at the Feuerhand lantern here. The Model 276 Baby Special, which I believe is the only model Feuerhand still makes. It's a fairly small lantern with a 12.5 millimeter wick. That's about a half-inch size wick. It's about as typical as you can get for what they call a cold blast lantern. Cold blast is a bit of a misnomer. But it's basically an improvement on an earlier design of lantern known as the hot blast. In the hot blast lanterns, basically the exhaust gases from the burner would be recycled and used to heat up the kerosene and heat up the burner to get better performance. In the cold blast, there's actually a very simple heat exchanger on top of the chimney, which heats up fresh air, so it's not recycling the exhaust gases, but it is using the heat from the exhaust to heat fresh air, which makes the lantern more efficient. So, notable features about the Feuerhand. It is made in Germany. It does have what is known as a rising cone burner. I'll show you that in a moment. And it does have a left-handed lift lever. The glass is also a borosilicate glass, which is heat resistant, so it's less likely to shatter if it becomes overheated or if, say, it starts raining on your lantern when it's already been lit. That dome that's on top of the burner, that is what is known as the cone, and on a lantern like the Feuerhand, that cone will lift when you lift up the globe for lighting. This makes it a little bit easier to get a match or lighter to the wick for easier lighting versus a fixed cone burner where the cone stays in place when the globe lifts up. You have to kind of get your match or your lighter through that slot to the wick down there. Makes it a little bit more difficult to light. The Feuerhand lanterns, like most kerosene lanterns, have the bail fixed to the air tubes with simple crimped eyelets that are part of the tubes. I don't particularly like this style of construction because it's quite easy to accidentally knock the lantern over when you're trying to pick it up. Sometimes these catch. On the Dietz lanterns, the bail actually fits into an eyelet that is pressed into the air tubes. And I have not had a problem with these bails catching, and I don't think they pose the sort of hazard those stamped eyelets do. Now, one of the big advantages of the Dietz lanterns is they have a whole line of lanterns, not just a single model. This here is one of the largest of the Dietz lanterns. This is the number 8 Air Pilot. This has a 7/8 inch wick and supposedly gives out about 12 to 14 candle power. It's roughly the size overall of a Coleman mantle lantern, but it doesn't weigh as much and it doesn't make any noise, if those are advantages you seek. If you want more light output, then the Coleman is the obvious winner. You're going to want 3 or 4 of these around your campsite if you want to get the same amount of usable light basically as one of those Colemans. I also find that this size lantern is basically the smallest you can use if you want to read by it. Now, with something like this, if you want to hold your map or your book right up under the lantern, yes, you can read by it. But with this lantern, I can put this on the table on my patio and read a book sitting down in the chair beside it. I don't have to have my book right up under it to see what I'm reading. This will really do a good job of lighting up a campsite or a smaller room. Whereas with one of these or the smaller Dietz Comet, you're going to need several lanterns to get the same amount of light. Now, I've seen a lot of people that they say that they don't like the quality of the Dietz lanterns. They're made in China, therefore they must be bad. I don't actually find hardly any difference in quality between the Dietz lanterns and the Feuerhand lanterns. Um, I have never had any obvious problems with any of the Dietz lanterns I've had, whether they're the Hong Kong made ones or the mainland China ones or the old New York ones. They're all roughly the same quality. One thing that I have seen though on the newest one that I have is I had the globe crack, and I didn't even have the burner turned up that high, and it wasn't raining, so there wasn't any big temperature difference between the outside and inside of the globe. I had it lit the second time that I've ever had it lit, and I just heard a snapping sound, and when I looked over at the globe, there were these small cracks. Now this is just regular, I think they call it soda glass, something like that. But it's the same thing you'd make like a bottle out of. It's not anything special. Whereas the Firehand lanterns have a borosilicate glass globe, which is much more heat resistant, and I don't think you would run into this kind of problem with the Firehand lanterns. But to be fair, of all the Dietz lanterns I have, and I have 5 or 6, this is the only one that has had this issue. And before I finish the video, here's a couple other lanterns from other brands. This is a Miva or a Meva from the Czech Republic. They've been making them for decades. I don't know if the company is still in production, but they were available new as recently as 10 years ago. And over here is a winged wheel lantern made in Japan. No longer in production, although the family that made them does apparently do limited runs every now and then for very high prices. But this is another really excellent lantern that's quite well made.